Hello, this is the second part of the second series of our Mukimo. I showed you our traditional Mukimo in the late 18th century to early 19th century. And now I'm showing the Mukimo currently as is taken in many homes. Usually, a lot has changed in the Mukimo. You find that we use maize. Previously, as you saw, we never had maize. Maize came from South America with the Portuguese, the coast, and later inland when the British came, and it became our staple food. And also potatoes. We never had Irish potatoes. They also came at around the same time. I believe they originated originally from some part of Chile. They found their way here in Kenya. And maize, potatoes, and now beans, not the crying bushy beans, but I can call them, allow me to call them modern beans, which also are a new entry into our food. They grow fast and they are short, don't need a lot of space. And also, there have been a lot of argument about beans being starchy. So many people are either cooking mukimo without beans, just the pumpkin leaves, plus potatoes, plus maize, and they call it mukimo. For me, that is not mukimo. Some other people add peas, and in this case, I'm going to use green peas, as you can see. So you prepare your peas very well. You blanch them the way you can see. I was lucky, these peas were fairly clean. They did not have worms. And then I dredged the maize, and as you can see, I'm using the traditional way of threshing maize. I don't know how to use another method. I see people using a knife. They put the knife and they put the maize kernels out. But for me, I'm not able to really accustomed to the very modern ways. So I actually like this way. This is the way my grandmother and my mother showed me, and I continue using it. After I had threshed my maize, I had peeled my potatoes, as you can see, and also just like the bananas, you need to have some water. As you peel, you put the potatoes so that any soil can come out when you're cleaning. It will be much easier. It takes time to thresh the maize, especially if it is quite young with the milk inside. What I do if the maize is too young, I keep it in the fridge for a little while to become a little bit solid, and then I'm able to just get them out without a lot of breakage. Then I clean my ingredients, starting with the maize. And I don't quite worry about the maize flour, the black strips you can see, mura, because they're actually nutritious, very nutritious. So we start with the maize because it takes a little longer. You boil a bit, then you put the peas, which do not take as much time to cook as the maize. You know, peas needs even to just steam. And then you boil the mixture together. Because potatoes take a little time to cook, you put them towards the end. And what I do, once I've boiled the maize and beans, not fully, maybe 70 or 80% cooked, I now get a new pot and I layer it with the part of the cooked mixture of the peas and the maize at the bottom. Because I want to put the potatoes in between. You are going to see how I'll layer up with the part of the mixture as well. So that is a sandwich. And the potatoes you cook very well because there will be a lot of heat when they are in between, like you're cooking lasagna, whereby you keep layering. And this time, remember, the maize and the peas were almost cooked. The potatoes did not take time. Once they are cooked, I start mashing. I add a little salt. And then remember also, in this case, you have to cook to mash when the food is still on the fire so that the residual moisture can evaporate so that you don't end up with very watery food. But remember, if you discover that the food is becoming dry. As you can see, I added some of the broth, and I used the same broth I boiled the peas and the maize with, so that I can get those nutrients to cook the potatoes and also adding in the mash. And I mashed. In this case, I did not use the masher because it was easier. With the potatoes, it was easier to mash because it was the gluing substance. It glued the maize and the peas together. As I said, many people omit the peas. They just cook potatoes, vegetables, and they call it maize. And to me, that is what we call gitoero, something you cook for somebody without teeth or young babies. So I prefer mine with a lot of maize, because remember also a long time ago, beans were rare, they were expensive, and we had a lot of maize and beans in our mukimo. I'd actually enjoy having a lot of maize in my githeri than beans. But I tried here to put almost equal parts of the green sweet peas with the same as maize. And then the potatoes, I did not put as many, because the idea is not to add more starch to the food. It just the role played by the potato is very functional here. It is to cement the peas and the maize. And I continued mashing. I enjoy mashing. It gives, there's some steam. You can see the way it's steaming. And it's forming some small crust at the middle. Then once I had done it for a while, I added the vegetables, the pumpkin leaves. You can see I added the pumpkin leaves, which I had blended. But a long time ago, we never used to blend. We used to just layer them on top of the potatoes, and then we would mash them. And they are fairly fibrous. They don't become smooth. With the blender, work has become easier because you blend, and the food can be fairly smooth because it's not as fibrous. And you can see I now mashed, and the idea is to distribute the vegetables all over the food, so that it had this good olive green color. As you can see, it's still coming together. Mashing requires time. You have to be patient, and you have to ensure that the water has dried, so that the food gets some texture. It's a bit stiff. And I continued mashing. As you can see, the fire was still on, because I wanted the food to be a bit dry. This kind of modern mukimo is normally taken with meaty foods. So by the side, I had some onions flying. And also, for me, it cannot be mukimo without beans. So I added some beans, the local beans, not the ancient beans. This is Motamania beans. Just a bit of it to give it more, to make it more solid, to have more character. As you can see, for me, it's more pleasing to the eye when you have the beans. I don't know what is your opinion. And then I had to, the beans were not many, they were just a handful, and I mashed, so that I could distribute the beans well with the mukimo. Once I was okay with the product, with the consistency, I added the onions, which I had fried with some oil. And my idea was just to make them translucent. I did not want to caramelize them, because I did not want it to affect the color of the food. The purpose of the onions here is to add taste. And once you add the onions, the mukimo acquires a very nice taste. And you can just eat it by itself without any stew. And after that, I served it in a bowl to give it a nice shape. Traditionally, I would have used a calabash. Remember, in my old mukimo, I use a calabash.